Hello, my name is Deb Crawford. I am a government employee who is currently working at the Laboratory for Analytic Sciences, where I head up the laboratory's research into the Internet of Things. I have a background in cybersecurity policy, receiving my master's in cybersecurity policy from University of Maryland in 2014. I actually started the master's when I was deployed in Afghanistan as the Senior Information Assurance Advisor to U.S. Forces Afghanistan. While I was deployed there, I dealt with many of the same issues that small businesses are dealing with today. How do I secure my networks? How do I keep the things that I need to protect protected? And how do I do that all in an environment that is exceedingly complex, where people are coming into and out of my infrastructure, some of whom I know and some of whom I don't know. What I'm here to do today is talk to you about cybersecurity and basically set the stage so that we're all looking at the problem from a very common perspective. So let's get going. The way people communicate today is very different from the way they communicated in the past, and it presents a whole new set of challenges. Our adversaries were once defined by national boundaries. They relied on phones, radios, and faxes to communicate over their own discrete networks. Today, those boundaries are gone. The U.S. and our allies, commercial businesses, private individuals, all operate on the same global network. We rely on the same information technology that is used by the people who seek to do us harm. Cyber threats have amplified with the globalization of digital communications, increased reliance on computer networks, and the convergence of technology. Cyber threats have also evolved. It is important to note that the risk is not just from sophisticated nation-states, but also from hackers, criminals, and terrorists. Every day, our adversaries become more refined, more skilled, more motivated, and we must be prepared. Ultimately, theft of intellectual property can result in economic and social costs that are broader than the profit losses to a single company or sector. Once data is stolen, it can be used to skip generations of R&D efforts, greatly accelerating a competitor's ability to develop the same, if not more impressive capabilities that permanently eliminate the competitive advantage unique to the victim from whom it's acquired. These network intrusions force companies to spend significant amounts of money to repair damages done to their networks, and the victims may incur additional costs beyond these actions. The cybersecurity community largely concurs on the prediction that cybercrime damages will cost the world $6 trillion annually by 2021, up from $3 trillion in 2015. This represents the greatest transfer of economic wealth in history, and reduces the incentive for innovation and investment. To maintain a competitive edge in the world market, companies need to aggressively protect their intellectual property and networks from a number of adversaries. Otherwise, our competitive economic advantage in the global economy achieved through our innovation, creativity, and the integrity of our people is threatened. So let's get started by thinking for a few minutes about cyberspace. What is cyberspace, and why is it important? Cyberspace is really a term that we use to describe the digital connective tissue that we all use to communicate with each other, from a computer, from a smartphone, from a tablet, from an iPad, from a smart device, in order to communicate and share information. This environment is very complex and it's very crowded. There are approximately 3.1 billion internet users. There's approximately 2.1 billion social media users, and 1.6 people are active on Facebook. There's about 1 billion terabytes, which is a zettabyte of data. So what does that mean? That means that there's a lot of information being exchanged in this cyber arena, and there are a lot of people in this cyber arena. And as a small business, I'll bet that you're one of those people who is exchanging information within cyberspace. You already know that it's complex, and you already know that it's challenging, and you already know that there are a lot of risks. Unfortunately, the situation isn't going to get any better. Looking ahead, global traffic is expected to increase 300% by 2020. 300%. A lot more people. And it won't just be people. with the explosion of the Internet of Things, traffic from wireless and mobile devices will account for about 2/3 of that traffic. And wireless and Internet of Things technologies will facilitate remote access to your corporate systems. You will be operating in an environment that is increasingly more complex, is increasingly more diverse, and your systems will be at an increased risk. As I talk about solutions, I'm going to very often refer to a term called cybersecurity policy. What is cybersecurity policy? Well, in its simplest form, cybersecurity policy are the rules and regulations that an organization develops, implements, and enforces to secure their networks. These policies range on everything from what type of passwords do employees use to how mobile computing devices connect into your networks. Cybersecurity policies identify the strategies, policies, and standards that you use to secure your networks in cyberspace. Organizational cybersecurity policies include the rules, practices, and procedures that you develop and implement to operate and protect your networks against breaches of security. As you develop your cybersecurity policies, it's really easy to think about them in technical terms. Password security policy, network connectivity, network monitoring. If all you do is implement technical policies to secure your network, you are overlooking the most important factor, and that's the people who operate on your network. People are your greatest asset, and they are also your greatest risk. And the best thing that you can do to mitigate that risk is to educate your users so that they are not only aware of the policies, but they're also aware of the risk that they are at as they operate in cybersecurity. Recent reporting indicates that the human attack surface, the number of people within cyberspace who will be targeted, will reach 6 billion people by 2022. As the world has become more connected, humans have become the most lucrative attack vector for cyber criminals. According to the World Economic Forum, in 2016, cybercrime will cost the global economy $445 billion. To put it in context, if cybercrime were a nation, it would be ranked in the top 25 globally